The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Open line on Mannin Line today through till 1 o'clock. And did you catch that story about the electric vehicle insurance market is challenging, says a provider on the Isle of Man? Well, one of the biggest insurers on the Isle of Man is Tower, and they say it's expensive, basically. Repair costs, shipping challenges are industry-wide, affecting the market in the UK and here. This is after somebody had a luxury EV, a luxury electric vehicle, and they were quoted £12,000 to insure it. £12,000 to insure an electric vehicle through a Manx broker. They got a quote in the UK from a UK broker, just a mere £2,500 or £2,600. But when you think £2,600 will buy you a reasonable second-hand vehicle. The argument always used to be was that electric vehicles are just for rich people and companies. And, well, it depends what you call rich, but £2,600 for insurance. If you've got a spotless record, of course, it depends on age of driver, type and age of vehicle, use of vehicle, claims history and all sorts of other ratings factors. But a lot of money, isn't it? If you've got an electric vehicle, what's your insurance? What's the cover like? Wilf's first with us now. Hi, Wilf.
I keep telling you about electric vehicles, don't I? Never mind.
Yeah.
What I'm on about now is overtopping in Ramsey.
Yeah.
We had a little bit over at the marketplace, a little bit further up the quay, but very little. We were very, very lucky that the southerly gale didn't happen. The southerly gale was in the afternoon rather than the evening.
Right.
If that would have come, we would have been in real trouble. But what I'm getting on about is there's a whole lot of stuff got to go on each time we're threatened with this. With bags out everywhere, it must cost a few £1,000 each time, and that's probably 2-3 times a year. Now, what I'm getting on about is I keep saying about this 2-foot-high wall. That will cure the whole thing, and I've been telling this for 40 or 50 years. But anyway, they just don't do it, they take no notice. They want to put a 1.4-metre wall, and that will kill Ramsey, as for people coming looking at the harbour and all the rest of it. Now, the thing is, all the electric boxes along the quay in Ramsey are on a 20-inch high concrete block. Now, the people that installed all them, and that's the swing bridge as well, the people that installed them, do they think the present people who want to mess Ramsey up are even taking any notice of them? They didn't do their homework and see how high the tide did come before they put these concrete blocks in. So this is 20 inches high. I'm talking 2 foot. And you could sit on it, step over it, and we never have any more trouble ever. All we have to do is block off the drains, and that's the job done.
And they want to put a 5-foot wall, 1.4 metres.
1.4, yeah. So anybody going past in a wheelchair or anything like can never see the harbour ever again. Anybody sitting on a seat on the harbour side, they can't look at the harbour either. They can't feed the ducks, can't do nothing. Plus all the boats and things and all the rest of it is in trouble. No, it's just so ridiculous. Plus the fact we were quoted a few years ago now at 1.4 million to do the job. It's now up to 4.5 million, I think, and we're still thinking about it.
Okay, so where would your 2-foot wall go from and to? Where would it start? Where would it finish?
It starts at the top of the quay, up by the car showroom, but there's a toilet up there. Take it off from there, all the way down through, right down to the swing bridge, and then where the swing bridge is, it ends there. Then you put these your barrier across there, the aluminium barrier, put one across there, then it starts again. Off, down, right down, round the marketplace. Not round the marketplace, but round the edge of the harbour. Right up to Mezeron. They could handle a 2-foot wall as well. They could work over top of that. Because that's where the water came in last night. It came in last night and it came in the other night. But the thing is, it's the cost of it now. It's gone up tremendously. And all we've done is talk stupid talk about it. Now, I could do that job myself. I could oversee it, and I don't want any pay. I could oversee that job with 2 good men, some shuttering, and ready mix. And I would only shift 2 cars at a time to do the whole quay. But they won't listen to me.
Okay.
And
so
there's a lot
who's
of
proposing the 1.4 metre? Is this DOI?
It's government, yeah, DOI, yeah. But they were also, prior to that, when they first started that, we're talking stupid talk, like a glass wall, to look at the harbour through this glass wall. Well, I never heard any piece of crap in my life. But anyway, a glass wall and a big half circle out on the quay for the drunks to fight on. They're supposed to be going to sit out in the sun with the tables and chairs, and where do they think they are? In the Bahamas or somewhere? You know, it's absolute crazy talk. But nobody listens to me.
All right, so you say it's gone up to over £4.5 million, the estimate now?
Yes, over that now. That's the estimate.
Okay, and who's paying for that, Wilf?
Well, it's government, but that's the people, isn't it? Another stupid scheme from the government.
Okay, so as somebody who knows Ramsey Harbour well, I mean, what you're saying is that would destroy the aesthetics, the look of Ramsey Harbour completely.
Of course, and if you put this 2-foot wall instead of the chains, you can sit on it. You can sit on it and look out over the harbour, and the tide will never ever get up as high as that. If it ever did in 100 years' time, well, you put another block on top. It's so easy and so cheap. But I wouldn't do it with block work at first. I would do it with shuttering and concrete and ready mix. No problem.
You've just
there we are.
You've just saved the government £3.1 million, Wilf.
Exactly. I'm always saving. I'm saving the commissioners' money as well. But then I have saved a lot of money for them. But that's another story.
Right.
But that's what it would do the job.
Oh, and I know what we'd call it as well, Wilf.
Wilf's Wall.
Wilf's Wall. That's it. Wilf's Wall. All right. Thanks, Wilf.
Okay.
Good to hear from you. All the best. Text, email, call and WhatsApp. And Stephen's with us now. Hi, Stephen.
Hi. I'd like to talk about the allocation of a new lifeboat for Douglas, if I may.
Yeah, go by all means.
Yeah, we always assumed that we would get a Shannon-class lifeboat for Douglas, and in fact we were allocated one about 5 years ago, but due to the prevarication about where they were going to put it, our boat was given to another station, and we've been waiting ever since to see what we're going to get.
Yeah.
Just recently, I see they've been trialling a rib here, a B-class rib in Douglas. And the way the finances are for the lifeboat at the moment, the figures are a new Shannon would cost £2.5 million plus the shore work, and the B-class rib would cost approximately £300,000. And the state of the finances of the lifeboat at the moment, I think they're going to allocate us a B-class rib.
Well, they say at the moment, Stephen, that the RNLI say there's a consultation and data review being launched to assess which lifeboat is best suited to the capital. Do you think they've made their mind up already?
I think they have, yeah. I mean, for the cost, really, as I say, 2.5 billion for a Shannon and all the shore works, and 300,000 for a B-class rib. But I suppose we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think this is downgrading, Douglas?
Well, yes, that's what I feel they're going to do. Where they're going to allocate us a B-class, and we'll have to rely on Ramsey or Port St Mary. It would take them about 20 to 30 minutes to get up to Douglas. But the trouble with the B-class is that you can, it's handy enough. Port Eden has got one, works quite successfully for what it does. But it's not an all-weather boat, and if you went out, you wouldn't get more than I would say 4 or 5 survivors in it as well. It's got a crew of 3, 4 or 5 survivors. I know the lifeboat has lost a lot of money through things like picking up migrants in the channel, acting as many people think like a taxi service for illegal immigrants. But that's what the lifeboat is not there to pass judgment. The lifeboat is there to save lives at sea.
What's going to happen to the lifeboat house then at the moment? The one that's condemned, really, isn't it? Well, what's going to happen to that? Is it going to be knocked down and a new one put up, or what's going to happen?
Well, I was just looking at that. It is now almost exactly 100 years old, that boathouse. And if you were in there when the lifeboat came astern quite hard and hit the slip, it used to shake like a jelly. It was, and they've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds on that lifeboat slip to extend its life. But Port Eden, what they did, they kept the existing boathouse, and their B class is launched down their original down that slipway on a cradle, which they could do here. If the slip is not getting a hammering, it might last several more years.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen, most people don't know much about the lifeboats, and obviously the vast majority of people never get served by the lifeboats. But I think there's a feeling that something is up here, something isn't quite right, and yes. Douglas seems to be being sold short.
Yeah. Well, you've got to remember that a lot of people don't think the lifeboat will involve them at all. But no matter how you want to go from the Isle of Man to the mainland, you've got to cross the Irish Sea, yeah. And those lifeboats are necessary to cover that whole area.
Which is why the Isle of Man has always given well above any British average in terms of donations towards the lifeboat. I mean, the darn thing started here. I'm looking down at a statue of William Hillary. He's buried in St George's. The lifeboat means a lot to the Isle of Man.
Yes. So I don't know where we're going from there, but on cost alone, I'm pretty sure they'll go for a B class. While I'm on the air, the other thing is, I was appalled at the lack of knowledge of lifeboats in the Isle of Man. And there's a very good book out called Lifeboats of the Isle of Man, which covers all. It's very interesting read, lots of illustrations, and it would make a nice Christmas present. It's just under £19 it is, but for people who would like to know about the lifeboats, that book would be a godsend.
Okay, Stephen, we appreciate it. Thanks for calling us today.
Okay, thanks for your...
Good to hear from you. 12:20. The Chief Minister's hit back at comments by the former Health Minister, Lowey Hooper, calling him, quote, disingenuous, quote, for continuing to make broader comments about Comin and the position that it takes. Over the weekend, Lowey Hooper was on Manx Radio on Perspective with Phil Gorm, and he said Comin completely ignored information provided by Manx Care about the impact on service delivery if cuts were made. So Mr. Cannon was on the breakfast show this morning. Our Chief Minister was on with Ben and Sean. Mr. Cannon said it's important that people aren't distracted by the exchange of views over the week, but instead understand the issues faced by Manx Care and the solutions, i.e. take the personalities out, look at the issues. Mr. Cannon said it is irresponsible, and in some ways unethical for Mr. Hooper to let costs rise after bringing in a tax rise. Mr. Cannon.
The extra £43 million that was going into health, the 10% tax increase, was done on the basis that the organisation had enough money to operate properly this year. And that was always the position. It has not been the clear position that actually health was not financially planning properly, that there was an audit report that said that health was not in a good position, and subsequently all this has come out following Lowey Hooper's resignation. Look, we've got to pick this up. I've spoken to a number of Tynwald colleagues over the weekend, and they all want to see this brought to resolution. It is a very, very serious matter. Lowey has walked away from the position. That's fine. I and my colleagues and many other members in Tynwald now want to deal with this issue, and we've got to deal with it quickly. We're only a few months away from the next budget, and we've got to get ourselves into a position where we can tell the nation that we are properly in control of our finances.
Mr. Hooper, as part of his conversation with Phil yesterday, he did touch on the issue of a motion of no confidence. It's something we heard Mr. Glover mention last week as well. Do you at this moment feel you still have the confidence of the House of Keys?
I've spoke to a number of my colleagues yesterday. They want to see this issue sorted out and resolved, and for us to get on. Look, that's a matter. If Tim Glover wants to get on with this, he needs to get on with this, but he does also need to stop destabilising the work of the parliamentary bodies and also the government as well. My focus today and for the next few weeks will be on getting this resolved. I've brought in a good team around me. I'll be engaging with Tynwald colleagues imminently, I expect, and I've just got to get on with sorting this out. You have to remember, Lowey Hooper resigned and walked away from the difficulties. Council and many others on the floor of Tynwald, and Chris Thomas and David Ashford and others that I've spoken to, just want to get involved and get this resolved.
Chief Minister there, and I just wonder, what are your thoughts? We're in a pretty pickle at the moment with this. Mr. Cannon seems to have a clear view of this, i.e. get the personalities out of the way and get the work done. Mr. Hooper takes another view, but of course he has now lost that impetus of being inside Comyn. He's now a backbencher. What do you in the middle of this, of course, we've got Manx Care. And really in the middle of it is, well, you and me and everyone else, because Manx Care isn't a job creation scheme. It's there to serve the public of the Isle of Man. That's what it's there for. That's its whole reason for being there. Manx Care, care of the Manx. Dentists, doctors, surgeons, consultants, nurses, looking after people's health, adult social care, mental health provision. That's what it's there for. What do you think? You may be in the industry. You may actually work in the industry. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say. You can, of course, remain anonymous. We won't tell Manx Care. But if you've got any thoughts, then do get in touch. A note in from Corin just said, what's a B class? It's a type of lifeboat. There are, I think, 5 classes, aren't there? 7, Tamar, Shannon, B class and D class. Tamar's the biggest. 7's the biggest. Then Tamar. Shannon is what we have elsewhere on the Isle of Man. B class is the rib that Stephen was talking about. Maybe they're trying to put onto Douglas. And the D class is the smaller one. Changing times. Can you imagine Douglas Lifeboat House being downgraded to a B-class rib? Julian's on. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Did I hear earlier about a £12,000 insurance quotation for an electric vehicle in the UK?
A gentleman has a luxury EV, which probably cost 6 figures. But apparently he didn't check out how much the insurance premium was before he bought the vehicle. Went to someone on the Isle of Man, and it was £12,000 for a luxury electric vehicle. Right. He got a quote across for £2,600, but £12,000 on the Isle of Man.
2,600 seems a lot as well.
Well, the problem is basically repair costs, because I don't think they repair EVs on the Isle of Man, so they've got to be shipped across.
Well, the other thing that occurred to me was February 22nd February in 2022, off the Azores, you had the Felicity Ace cargo ship shipping 4,000 vehicles that went on fire for whatever reason. They think it was an electric vehicle because they had a load of them on board, and that gave a loss to the insurance company of $335 million. About 14 months later, the Fremantle Highway went down with almost 4,000 vehicles and 500 EVs, and that was a loss of 300 million euros. And then not that long after, in the October of 23, you had Luton Airport fire, which so far is they're saying it's north of 100 million just for the car park.
Well, everything is run by insurance companies. Of course, nobody can do anything unless it has insurance cover or is risk assessed or what have you. If the insurance companies aren't involved, you basically are then down to governments to get involved. So if the insurance companies turn their back or put prohibitive premiums on EVs, and I'd like to know if anybody has got an EV, a run-of-the-mill, say one of those Volkswagen EVs or anything like that, how much does it cost to insure an EV on the Isle of Man? I'd really like to know. Sorry, go on, Julian.
I can't imagine in my wildest dreams that anybody over, say, 40 in a Ferrari would pay anywhere near 12,000 quid a year for their insurance. I can't imagine it, but just a quick sort of thought on the Carevi presentation that's been going on, the one at Castletown. I think I'm more confused than I was before, actually. Spoke to a couple of the chaps there, and it gives you a complexion of exactly what's going to be the cost implications for this. The chap that was talking from Wardell Armstrong, who was on the energy generation presentation, he effectively has on his desk a graph that says that the load factor, which is how often it produces energy compared to its theoretical maximum, 62%. However, he also said to me some figures, which works out at 68%. I think the last annual report on the Carevi wind farm said it would be 74%. But you've got the advertisement that was put through most people's doors about this, which says that they provide potentially up to a quarter of the demand. Well, if you take them at their word, they very handily say also that the average was 40 megawatts, which would be the bit in the middle of our 100 megawatt turbine over the year, high in the winter, low in the summer, 40. So if you multiply that 40 by the number of hours in the year, you end up with a unit figure of 350. So if you take a quarter of that, you get 88, which is a 50% load factor. So they're telling us in the same presentation that those turbines will provide somewhere around 50% load factor, 62, 68, or 74. So we're all over the place with that, especially when you think that if you look at the UK government and also Ørsted, Equinor, and SSE, who are in the wind consortium that all say it's only 26%, we're all over the place with the amount of electricity that's going to generate in by the year. 26 all the way up to 74. And their own presentation, when you actually look at the figures and work it out, and then you think about Walney that we can see across the way in the sea, and they're massive things. I mean, they're 1,000 feet high, and their 2023 report reported 41% load factor. So you kind of think, how on earth is this going to work? Then you look at what we know already. So in a local newspaper last year, it said £23.5 million bill for MUA wind farm. Then they said about a landing stage for 12 million, but they've definitely said to me yesterday, and it's also on your news, that they are not doing that. So really, that 12 million should be taken away, because they were then saying, well, it'll be 36, not 23.5. And now they've upped it to 40 million. So the wind farm, before it's even got its environmental impact assessment done, has almost doubled. It's 70% bigger on the quote now than it was in October. And they're also changed in the blurb from a third of our demand to a quarter of our demand.
Did they understand your confusion when you were talking to them?
Well, I was just trying to point out the fact that the bit on the wall doesn't tally with what the big boards that he's got. He says 62%. The figures say 50%. He also said 68% based on his assessment of how many gigawatts he thought it would be. I don't want to get too technical, but he said 120, whereas his board says 108. Daphne says 130. The handout says 88 units. The reality from the UK says 44 units. So is it 44? Is it 88? Is it 108? Is it 120? Or is it 130?
My word. So, they should be selling timeshare.
It's like the disparity in the options here is amazing. And also, it seems that the interconnector will be £220 million.
Oh, this is the one coming from Preston to Groudle.
Yeah. Now, another interesting bit about, just the idea of getting rid of pull rows and an interconnector.
Yeah.
There's a new government body that was recently assembled called NESO, N-E-S-O, which stands for National Energy System Operator. And you can look on their website at neso.energy. And they've just done what is called a capacity market notice. And it turns out that last Friday, the UK was within a hair's breadth of going into a blackout, what's called a system margin of 500 megawatts, which is only 5 times the size of Pulrose. So in the context of the UK, that is, a near miss. It's like the wing mirrors clipping, if you know what I mean. And in their report, this was partly caused by the fact that a French big interconnector to the UK, a 3 gigawatt one, failed, an outage, and then at the same time, the North Sea Link, the Norwegian one, cut out as well.
Yeah.
So the price that they are showing that they paid per megawatt, instead of making it for around £65-70, was £1,030.
So are they ever talking about getting rid of Pulrose? Because I always thought Pulrose was going to be the backstop.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the backstop's a problem because if you start turning that all the way down when the turbines are running, you're still going to be using half the amount of gas that you do now.
Yeah, but presumably they know that. It's closed circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's right, exactly right. So you'd need a less efficient open circuit rapid response one. And, part of the problem is they've just closed the Ratcliffe coal power station, which was good for 2,000 megawatts. So that all sort of contributed to this problem that they had last week.
Okay.
So
all right.
We're going to... Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say the wisdom of hoiking us up to the UK when they're paying 16 times more for the electricity now as they're ramping down on their own generation seems kind of silly.
We all need to write 29p on the kitchen wall in 500 point. 29p. Let's remember 29p, because if that ever changes, we need to be guaranteed. There needs to be a guaranteed price for domestic electricity. Otherwise, all of this, I think, is pointless, Julian.
I think we need to know, is this wind farm going to do what everyone else is saying all around us, or is it going to be generating, twice the number of units that everyone else can do with the same size farm? Is it going to be 62 bigger, 68%, 74? It's all over the place, and it's all in plain sight. You just need to just read what they're saying to you, and you just kind of go, well, which one is it?
All right. Okay. Thanks for that. Good to hear from you.
Cheers. Bye.
My 2023 Kia EV, new price £50,000. 50 grand for a Kia. I'm 55 years old, fully comprehensive insurance with Direct Line, £320 per year. Thank you, 711. Good to hear from you. Crogga hopes to drill late next year. Not off the Isle of Man, but somewhere else. They're hoping to extract gas They're drilling a second well in the Irish Sea. It's acquired an undeveloped block from another company and appointed a well operator. The Ronaldsway gas field is off the coast of Blackpool near the existing South Morecambe gas field. Crogga's aiming to drill an appraisal well there late next year with a view to then moving its rig from the Ronaldsway field to the Independence well off the coast of Mackhold. So Crogga is going into business, so it seems, off Blackpool near the South Morecambe gas field, and then hoping to get started off Mackhold. I wonder.
Island Hearing Limited, your local hearing care specialist since 2009, with branches in Port Erin and Ramsey. We provide the very latest hearing aid technology available, which you can try at home, with excellent aftercare and a wax removal service available using microsuction. Give us a ring on 830 722 or visit Island Hearing at One Station Road, Port Erin. We're happy to help. Island Hearing, always listening.
With EPS Coatings.
Your house could be looking as good as the day it was painted for 10 years. Guaranteed.
Whatever the Manx weather brings.
The revolutionary Protect system from EPS Coatings. Ultimate protection for your home. Guaranteed for 10 years. Book now for next spring and get 10% off. And keep your house beautiful for longer. Call EPS on 627 191.
In beautiful Silverdale Glen, Ballasalla, find your perfect home away from home at Trail Lodge. If you're looking for a staycation this autumn, Trail Lodge is the perfect retreat with stays as short as one night available. So book now. Terms and conditions apply. Vouchers for Trail Lodge are also perfect for anniversaries, presents, corporate gifts and more. Ideal for surprise 2025 getaways. Trail Lodge, Silverdale Glen, Ballasalla. Visit traillodge.im or search Trail Lodge on Facebook.
Whatever your business, whatever its size, you can always rely on the island's leading fuel and oil supplier to keep you moving. Ellen Vannin Fuels, powering the island and powering industry. Call us on 844 000.
In what appeared to be a relatively uninspiring Tynwald order paper, one of the expected highlights was the Treasury Minister's statement. As things turned out, Laurie Hooper's resignation overshadowed everything else, but Alex Allinson's statement explained a lot, both in what he did and didn't say. The temporary rise in the higher rate of income tax is looking more permanent than we'd been led to believe, and the pension triple lock is likely to be removed. But there was some good news hinted at in the statement too. You can find out more on Agenda at 5:30 this evening on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. No giveaways from Treasury, but perhaps some jam tomorrow.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Tony's on now. Hi, Tony.
Hi. You wanted to speak to somebody who owned an EV on the Isle of Man about insurance.
Yeah, how does it work?
Well, up to last June, I was paying for my EV about £350, and then they put it up. My previous insurer wanted £2,500 from £350, but I managed to get off island for £450.
Okay, and what vehicle do you have?
Well, am I allowed to say, Mike?
You can say, yeah, by all means.
I drive a Tesla. So that's in the category of luxury cars.
Okay.
And part of the problem, one of my insurers wouldn't insure the Tesla because it's capable of autonomous driving. And so in the event of an accident, who's to blame? Is it the driver? Is it the car? Is it the maker and manufacturer? Who's to blame? But that's not the issue here. I think just there's a lot of misinformation as far as EVs are concerned everywhere. And I think the insurer who quoted $12,500 just didn't want to insure for whatever reason.
Oh, I see. So, yeah, they just wanted to frighten the person away. Yeah. So if your vehicle is off the road, do you get a car to drive around? Do they give you another EV?
Yes, they do. With the insurance that I've got, yes, they give me another EV. Yes, yeah. In fact, I had a prank. Somebody reversed into me, and my car was off the road for a couple of weeks, and I got another EV. Yes.
Okay, and was your vehicle? Was it just body work? Was that repaired over here?
Yes, no, it wasn't repaired over here because it would have affected my warranty. But it was just bodywork. Yes, somebody reversed into me and it hit my driver's side door. So I did take it off island, but I could have had it done on the island. But because I didn't want to affect the warranty, I took it off island.
Okay. Why did you buy a Tesla, Tony?
because of the range. I've driven EVs for 6 years now, and I had a lovely little Leaf for many, many years, which gave me a range of 120 miles, which is great for the Isle of Man. But the Tesla has a range of 360 miles, a given range, a stated range. In actual fact, it's about 320. And I wanted to take it off island, go see relatives in Scotland. I take it to France. I take it to wherever I want to go, because again, the charging infrastructure of EVs isn't great, but it is getting better. But the charging infrastructure of Tesla is second to none. They're everywhere.
Okay, what would you say to somebody who doesn't drive an EV? How would you sell the concept of driving an EV?
That's a good point. Yes, no doubt they are more expensive than ICE cars in internal combustion. How are they? They're quieter, they're more efficient, less on servicing. I think it is the future. To be honest, it is the future.
Okay, and when you say it's capable of autonomous driving, can you expand on that?
Yeah, I could press a button and it would drive itself for me. It would overtake, turn off the motorway, stop, whatever I'd need it to do, hands free. You have to keep your hands on the steering wheel, near the steering wheel, or on the steering wheel, but it would do everything for me. I don't use it on the Isle of Man because it relies a lot on traffic markings in the centre of the road, and we don't have that here. But on motorways, yes, certainly I could do the EV, the autonomous driving, yeah.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks for calling today, Tony.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Mike's on with us now. Hello, Mike.
Good afternoon. It's about Manx Care. I'm not going to go into the politics of it.
Okay.
But money-wise, first point, we'll start on simple cost savings. Back in April, was it April? Yeah, I had a letter informing me that my 6-monthly appointments with the consultant would now be at the hospital, would now be by phone monthly. Fine. In that envelope, there was 10 identical letters for each month, for each appointment. The only thing different in each letter was the date. Times were the same. So you've got 9 extra sheets of paper I didn't need there. Well, 10. You could have put it in the cover letter.
You've got 10 sheets, 10 letters in one envelope.
Yeah, identical, apart from the date. Now, I've also, last week, I had an appointment come in for a bone density scan, fair enough. And it's for a date when I'm actually off island. So I rang up immediately, said I'm off island. Okay, we'll send you a new appointment, which has come today. The original letter had the cover letter and an information sheet and a questionnaire sheet. So it's 3 sheets of paper. This morning, I've had the new appointment, which again has come with the same information sheet and the same questionnaire sheet. So it's 2 extra sheets of paper there. The stationery that Manx Care use is all good quality paper and envelopes. If I get one from Liverpool, it's on the cheapest, greeny coloured, recycled paper you could think of.
Yeah.
Just by cost. So we're wasting money hugely just on stationery for starters. Now, the CEO, he doesn't live on island. So, for starters, does she pay tax here? And national insurance?
No, I'm sure Mrs. Cope does live on the Isle of Man. I'm sure she does.
Well, I'm told by a nurse that she doesn't.
Well, she used to. Well, put it this way, she used to live about 50 yards from the radio station. She lived on Douglas Head in the apartments there. I do think she does live on the Isle of Man. But anyway, go ahead.
Right, and then the company is it a Manx company? Are all the directors on island paying Manx tax tax and national insurance. I don't know that information.
No,
but
we don't know. It might be nice to know. Now, some of the non-execs aren't resident on the Isle of Man, and obviously whenever they come for meetings, I'm presuming that they get expenses, and I'm presuming if they live in the UK, which some of them do, that they'll be remunerated through the UK.
Yeah, and also I don't know what sort of salary that comes with, because how easy would you be able to save your £200,000 that they're talking about on cancelling the operations just by losing a director?
I mean, at the moment we are in, I mean, you said you didn't want to talk about politics, so I won't, but I mean, something's up. Something's not quite right. We all know that. We know that something's not quite right, and it just depends really on, I mean, obviously now the Chief Minister is taking charge of the situation.
Yeah. Another wastage, again, this information comes from a nurse. Some of the managerial posts that have been created with such weird titles, but it's almost like somebody gets a manager's job and then creates another manager's job to do the job for them. So again, we don't know that sort of thing, but is that where a lot of the money's going? And the next thing is to do.
Yeah, and I think this is part of it, Mike, is that we don't know, and the trouble is that as nature abhors a vacuum, so does this situation, and all sorts of people have their ideas about what should and shouldn't be done. They do spend an enormous amount of money. It's one of the biggest departments in government, DHSC, and the funding from Treasury into Manx Care, and we know that something isn't quite right because they've overspent by so much. How we get forward. I mean, I think it's worth remembering that, you're at the bottom of this. You're in the middle of all this. We're all in the middle of this. Manx Care is there to look after us. That's their job.
Yeah. For the last, 7-8 years, I've had a lot of help from the health service, if you like. My health isn't as bad as a lot of people by any means, but I've got some small problems and I've got very good service.
And that's the key. That's the key, that the people who do the work, if you like, the people at the coalface, the people by the bedside, the people who are doing the operations, they're fantastic. It's just somewhere along the line, something is broken, and we as the public don't quite know.
Quite right. But this next bit about finances that I'm going to suggest, for starters, it's very difficult to budget for a health service because you don't know how many accidents you're going to have, how many people are going to get ill, etc. So that's quite difficult to budget. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on that. Back in the budget, from my memory, was it £10 million was put aside for, I'll call it the Green Initiative work. Basically, our government seems to be doing loads and loads of work unnecessarily because, depending which report you read, the UK is responsible for 2.5 to 3.5% of the world's carbon emissions or whatever. Out of that, the Isle of Man's contribution is minimal because we've got virtually no heavy industry. We've got no plating plants, no lot heavy engineering, etc. We've got no steel works, well, neither is UK now. So what the Isle of Man actually gives off, it's not worth even mentioning. But we're spending huge amounts of money just to look good.
Okay. All right, we appreciate that, Mike. Thanks for your call today, and thanks for those points.
Look forward to a cleaner, greener future by switching to gas with Isle of Man Energy. You'll get a future fuel-ready smart boiler with smart controls and 10 years servicing included. And on top of reducing your local carbon emissions with a state-of-the-art boiler and cleaner fuel, Isle of Man Energy will remove that dirty old oil tank, all from just £25.20 per month. Think greener and find out more today. Visit isleofmanenergy.im and click Switch to Gas.
I find it hard to get a doctor's blood test appointment to fit around work. With my mobility issues, it's difficult to get to a hospital for a blood test.
If you find it inconvenient to go for a blood test, or you need one fast, then contact Top Care Nursing, where a nurse will do your blood test at home or in your workplace. Proud to be an Isle of Man Award for Excellence winner. Just call 628 919 for a free consultation, or book online at topcarenursing.im.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows letting rain, keep those cold breezes out and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
Do you know a scrap man? 'Cause I've got scrap to clear. Causing copper, brass and lead, and I need cash for beer.
What? You don't know a scrap man? Gastains of Vauxhall is the one for you. Gastains will take all scrap metal and is also licensed to dry cell and lead acid batteries. So don't delay. Ring 801 337 now.
So now we know a scrap man and all our scrap's been cleared. Ring 801 337, then have cash for beer. Call Costains today and get yourself a beer. The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Mark as well. Hi, Mark.
Yeah, hi, Andy. I was just in reference to your comment earlier about the really interesting news from Crogga that they've just acquired another gas license in UK territorial waters, ironically called Ronaldsway, which I think is just off the coast of Blackpool.
Yeah, they just got accreditation from the North Sea Transition Authority.
Exactly, and I think that's the bit I wanted to sort of highlight. I mean, the North Sea Transition Authority is the leading oil and gas regulator in the world, and they accredited Crogga in 3 months. And with that, I presume that Crogga now can, because the UK has the drilling regs in place, they'll be drilling in short time, maybe end of 25, beginning of 26.
Yeah.
But in the Isle of Man, it's been stuck now for, I think, 6 years. And in 6 years since the licence was issued, there's been no regulations issued by our bureaucrats, and they're still floundering on whether to give the go-ahead to Crogga to actually drill. And wouldn't it just be absolutely awful if Crogga go ahead and drill the Ronaldsway field? They find gas. I know it's an if. It is a gamble. They find gas, and the UK Treasury gets billions of dollars from Crogga UK. But the Isle of Man bureaucrats have been sitting on the fence now for years, and for some reason unable to move forward with it. Just say no. It'll be travesty. And,
well, and we, the public, don't quite know why. That we always get ifs, buts, and maybes about why they don't license and sanction Crogga to go ahead, but nobody ever says it in words of one syllable, Mark.
Well, absolutely, but it just seems to be one objection after another, and I think Crogga's answered all their objections. I mean, if you listen to Chris Thomas in Tynwald, one objection was, well, you can't do 3D before the drill. Well, the government advisors have said, yes, you can drill before 3D. That's common practice. That objection's gone. Due diligence on Crogga, has that been done? Well, they've just been approved by the North Sea Transition Authority, which is the world leading expert. Okay. So there just seems to be objections being thrown in by the bureaucrats, and I'm just, it's just sad, and the potential value to Isle of Man is £2.8 billion, and the government,
appreciate it. Yeah, we've got to go, Mark, because we're out of time, but we appreciate the point. Thanks for that. Back with an open line tomorrow, and after Mannin Line coming up, the proud Gobbag, Eddie Lowey. Thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today.
WINT. 60 years serving you as the nation station. This is Manx Radio.
The late politician Eddie Lowey was a Peel Gobbag and proud of it. He grew up in the Sunset City during World War II. Amongst the things he recalled were the Italian internees.
And they rioted. They wanted more conjugal rights. That's a good mouthful, isn't it? Yes. They were only getting 2 visits a year from their beloved, and they thought that they should have been entitled to more. The other thing I can remember, of course, is my grandmother dying, my father's mother, and having the funeral outside or part of the service. Women didn't go to the funerals, you know. They actually they took the coffin out, placed them on a couple of chairs, and had a little service in the street, and the men carried it up to the end of the road, and then the men went to the church and buried, you know. And I can remember that.
Yeah. Did they put pennies over the eyes?
Yes, indeed. I can remember going in to see my grandmother lying, you know, and they had the lace things over the face, and she was holding a rose, and the pennies on the eyes. Yeah, I can remember that.
Yeah.
And the other thing associated with that was the taking in of kids, you know, while the adults were doing what they had to do with funerals. And everybody sort of knuckled around in wartime, you see. And it was the first bath I was in, real bath, you know. I mean, we're in tin baths, you know. I mean, my mother was an expert with the big kettle, you know, pouring the kettle. Me and my brother in one end of the bath, me in the other, my mother pouring the big kettle. Health and safety.
You must have had a big bath.
It was a big bath. And the other thing I can remember, of course, of that was getting dried, you know, the big, what they call Turkish towel, big towel, and my grandmother taking me on one knee, wrapped in this towel. Oh, that was lovely.
Yes.
God, it was lovely. I'm a huggable fella, you see, you know, even when I was that age.
So did they call you Gobbags then?
Oh, I'm a Gobbag, yes. I was born in Peel. I was born in Duke Street.
So the term Gobbag was in use all a while then?
Oh, yes. Gobbag, of course, means dogfish, you know. It's a term of abuse. But, you know, I mean, Peel, you know, had a remarkable degree of Gobbags. There was 5 or 6 of us in Tynwald at one time. Arnold Callan, Betty Hanson, Roy MacDonald, myself. William Kane is a Gobbag, you know, the former Deemster. He was a Gobbag. You know, so there's, you know, I mean, we wear it with like a badge of pride.
So it's just a term of affection, not of abuse,
lovely.
Then,
but, you know, I can remember going up to Sunday school, you see, and we were up at the Methodists, and you know, and then down, get a slice of sultana cake, and down on the beach with Billy the Tweet, the Salvation Army, you know. Hasn't the Salvation Army and the Methodists got an awful lot to answer for? Yeah, I've turned
Billy
out.
the Tweet, did you say?
Billy, Mr. Quirk, I couldn't dare. The late Mr. Quirk. But he was called Billy the Tweet, and, you know, he played and the band was there, and that's what we did. It was lovely, and the sun, it's always shone on a Sunday.
Part of Island life for 60 years. This is your Manx Radio.